Okay, we're back live at the United in Indianapolis, NCAA Championships 2013. We just finished the prelims in 3-meter diving. We're now ready to start the consoles for those placing 9th through 16th. We're taking a little break here, Kevin. What did you think about prelims?
I had a lot of fun watching the prelims. There are a lot of strong divers in this event. You can tell that there are a lot of the young women are starting to work on their list for the World Championship trials and list for the Olympics in 2016. Might seem like it's a long way out, 2016, but they're training on a 4-year quadrennium cycle. So they're going to try to get the dives that they're going to use in 2016 under their belt now. You can also see some of the strategy that takes place here where divers that can do a lesser degree difficulty dive but do it much better will throw that into their list to make it into the prelims or consoles or into the finals. We're going to get ready to start here. They're seating the judging panel, and they'll shortly announce our first diver, who's going to be Amy Kozad.
Now, they are allowed to change dives between prelims and this console. It doesn't look like anybody has changed any of their dives. Here's the order of diving. From Indiana, Amy Kozad is going to be diving first. Sam Pickens, our 1-meter winner from yesterday, University of Arizona, is going to be diving second. From the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Jen Chang is going to be diving third. From the UCLA Bruins, Emma Ivory Gagne, diving fifth. From the Georgia Bulldogs, Laura Ryan, diving sixth. From Virginia Tech, Logan Klein, diving seventh. From UMass, Michaela Butler, and diving eighth. From the LSU Tigers, Cassie Wheel. Judges are in position. We're getting ready to start the event. So Kevin, do you think there's more pressure right now or in prelims?
Well, I you got the pressure to make the finals, make the consolations. Once you're here, like in Amy's case, she comes into this in 16th place. She has nowhere to go but up. I think you'll see her be a little more aggressive possibly. I think we're going to see a little bit higher scores here in the consolation round.
She's doing inward 2.5 tuck for her first dive. Yesterday we saw a really good console round. Let's see if we can see one again today.
Amy did a much better job here on this inward 2.5 in the consolation finals than she did in the preliminaries. There's not as much to hold back here, I don't think. Saw her get up over the diving board really well. Got into the water real clean. We're going to wait here as we're still trying to get Judge 2. They seem to be having a little bit of technical difficulty with the pads today. We're at 54 point even, 6.5s and 7s on the dive.
Sam Pickens, our 1-meter champion from yesterday, probably had a great night's sleep. Inward 2.5 pike. Higher degree of difficulty than the one Amy just did in tuck. A little tougher to spin in pike.
She gets a great jump up off the diving board. Checks out of that dive a little bit early. Kind of sees where she's at and then finishes the dive just a little bit lower to the water than maybe she would have wanted to. Overall, that was a very well executed inward 2.5 pike.
She makes that inward 2.5 pike so easy, Kevin.
Yeah, she definitely does not look like she's worried about the dive at all. And again, we seem to be. She comes away with 54 points on that dive. Carries 6s.
Jen Chang starting off with the same dive, inward 2.5 pike. This is round one of our console There's 8 divers.
She did this in preliminaries as well. She kind of turns to the right as she takes off. It changes the physics of the dive a little bit. Makes it a little bit harder to get the board to help you out. Still puts the dive in vertical, but we'd like to see her stay square with her shoulders as she's pushing down into the board. Throws straight down the center line of the diving board. She comes away with 49.5 points on the dive, high of 6, low of 5.
We got Emma coming up, UCLA.
Emma, just relax for a second, please.
They're having some technical difficulties down there. They've asked Emma to step back for a moment. This is time as a diver, you're ready to do your dive, and now you're told to wait. A lot of times, if the delay is very long, I'll have my divers kind of step back off the board, rethink the dive, model it again, then they step back up. They've got a fair amount of time from the time the dive's announced to the time they have to do the dive, so there's plenty of time for them to get their mindset back into what they're doing.
So, Kevin, by modeling it, tell the audience what you mean by that.
Well, in practice, we teach the divers how to do each of their dives in slow motion on the pool deck, and they'll go through each of the actions that they're going to do once they get up onto the diving board. It allows them to feel what the dive's supposed to feel like, and with the coach standing right there, they can make modifications as they need to. It looks like we're back underway with front 2.5 pike here from Emma. Really nice sounding entry here on this dive. Rides the board very well. Kind of keeps her head up a little bit more on her takeoff than maybe she would have liked. Kept her a little more vertical if she would have got her head more neutral. Again, we appear to be waiting for the judges' scores. They seem to be having some technical difficulty on the table.
54,
Comes away with a high of 8. She's going to keep 7.5, 54 points. So we've got a 3-way lead so far here in the first round.
And we got Laura doing a back 1.5, 2.5 twist. Laura Ryan from University of Georgia.
Laura does a really good job on these back twisters, keeping her body nice and tight and straight. Just makes her body as long as she can. Very smooth flowing twister. She comes away with 57.4 points to move into the lead at this point.
Got a little delay in the action again. If you want to tune in tonight for the finals, ESPN is covering it.
I believe it's on ESPN 3.
ESPN 3, correct.
Streaming live on the internet as well.
Got Logan Klein, Virginia Tech. Starting off with front 2.5 pike.
Logan is so powerful on the diving board.
That was strong.
She gets done with that dive and then just makes it look like a front lineup coming out of the 5-minute
That's going to score big. 8s.
Just straight 8s across. Low score of 7 from one judge. Goes 57.6 to take the lead here in the early round.
Caleb Butler, very strong diver from UMass, doing inward 2.5 tuck.
Kayla threw an amazing reverse 2.5 tuck in the prelims to move herself into the consolation finals.
She also does that same dive on, we'll see it right now, I mean, in this competition, but she did a reverse 2.5 tuck on 1 meter. Only lady to do it here.
Yeah, I've seen that video across social media. A lot of coaches are saying this is what's going to take from now on to get into the finals at the NCAAs. So it's exciting to see the diving progressions. There was, I say not that long ago, but it seems like years ago when we were diving.
Yeah.
It was a dive that you didn't see many of the
guys doing. She made it easy.
Yeah, it was.
I think we're going to.
No question that she can make that dive.
Like we said earlier, I think she's probably working on reverse 3.5. Would be the first woman to ever do that dive, I think, unless you've seen it before.
At least here in the United States.
Yep.
We're
Got a little delay going. Looks like they're having a little fun up on the platform to the 3 meter during this break. Most of these divers know each other. They see each other in the summer, U.S. diving meets. A lot of good friends. It's a great community.
If you look at their history, on their dive meets, you see that most of them competed against each other in the age group level and the senior level.
Grew up together. Traveled together. Probably stayed in the same hotels together.
We were watching Sam Pickens win the 1 meter contest yesterday. Brought back memories of a 2010 Spring East Nationals where Kate Hillman and Sam Pickens went head-to-head there. Came down to the last dive. It's a lot of history that you have with these divers. Looks like we're back and ready to
see Michaela do Emmer 2.5 tuck.
That's an amazing jump on that dive. Gets it way up in the air. Checks out a pike out coming into the water. A little bit heavy on the splash, but she's going to come away with 55.35 points. It's going to move her into third place.
And Cassie, LSU Tigers, front 2.5 pike to finish off this round 1 of Consuls. Cassie's got those long lines, very pretty diver.
Yeah, she just
That's going to score
buries
big.
The entry on that dive. I'd like to see her finish the dive a little bit higher, but you get the go in the water like that, you're going to get some good scores. We're going to keep 8s across the board for 57.6 points and puts her into a share of the lead at this point.
Amy Kozad, round 2. Pretty tough dive here, back 2.5 pike. These judges are great. They're so consistent. They don't judge just on entries. They judge on the whole dive. They're very highly trained. See Steve Volmecki down there.
Amy sets up the back 2.5. All right, she's a little bit back on her heels when she takes off. The dive carries out a little bit, makes it a little bit tougher for her to line it up at the bottom. She comes away with 42 points on the dive.
Sam Pickens for 2.5 pike. This ought to be pretty. Her pikes are great.
Real aggressive there on the dive. You're watching that from home. You see the check out at about 1 3/4 somersaults and just open pike around a line up. Very well executed dive.
She got great lines. I mean, it's like a pencil.
She really does. She's very powerful on the diving board. She jumps high, spins really well, and she's very in control. She comes up with a 9, 8.5, and 8. She's going to get 61.2 points on the dive. It'll move her into first place at the moment.
Got our Big East 3 meter champion, Jen Chang. Dove here a couple weeks ago. Front 3.5 tuck.
Does a really good job on that front 3.5 tuck. She gets a little bit forward over her toes as she's taken off the board. It does allow it to spin a little bit faster, but it tends to make it move out and be a little bit harder to control on the entry. She got into the water pretty well. And again, we're waiting here for the judges' scores to come up. She's going to have an average score there of about 6.5, 54.6 points.
We got our UCLA Bruin, Emma, doing back 1 1/2 with 1 1/2 twists. Some of the divers are doing 2.5 twists.
When you can do the dive that well, there's a reason that you've got that in your list.
That's right.
Jumps up really nicely, beautiful body line. Like the way that her body's nice and tight and straight on the twist. She comes away with 52.8 points, keeping 2 7.5s and a 7 there.
Laura Ryan doing back 2.5 pike. Some people, if they just walked in the door, would think this is the finals instead of the Consuls. These women are so good.
Award.
Beautiful control on that takeoff. She comes out a little bit early, a little bit loose in her back, so she goes in a little heavy and short on the dive. She can stand that up just a little bit more, allow her time to line it straight up and down. She goes 49.5 on the dive.
Logan Klein, inward 2.5 tuck. We're in round 2, diver number 6 of 8. Looked pretty easy, Kevin.
It does look pretty easy. I'd like to see her stand up just a little bit more as well so she can be done up above the diving board. Gives her time to line up and rip that entry. She's got a 52.65 on the dive there. It's going to move her into second place.
And Michaela Butler doing front 2.5 pike.
Kayla finishes that dive nice and high as well. She doesn't quite finish it off at the water. She needs to dig down just a little bit deeper to get that thing vertical going in. Let her clean up the entry. She's just an amazing jumper. She comes away with 44.4 points.
And we got Cassie Wheel doing an inward 2.5 somersaults tuck. That's Sam Pickens as the leader, round 2.
Casey's going to need a big dive here if she wants to reclaim the lead. She does a really, really good job on that inward 2.5. Like to see her push through her toes just a little bit more and stay a little more square on the end of the board. She got in the water nice and clean. She gets a nice body line as she lines it up 59.4, and she does get enough to move into the lead. She's
we got Cassie in first, Sam in second.
Just under 2 points separating Cassie and Sam.
First diver, round 3 of 6, Amy Kozad. A reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck.
Very well done with reverse 2.5 by Amy. She's a little quick off the diving board getting into that tuck.
Yep.
But she did a really good job of controlling it, put it straight up and down at the end. Much better than what we saw her do earlier in the prelims. She comes away with 58.8 points on the dive, averaging 7s.
It's a big dive by Sam. Did it really well in prelims. A front 3.5 pike. Most of these ladies are doing it in tuck.
She did front 2.5 pike in the last round, kind of a lead up into this dive.
Yep.
Beautiful jump. She left that a little bit short, but she still got the water pretty clean. It's very powerful, gets that thing spinning really quick.
That's a DD of 3.1.
Degree difficulty on that dive is going to help her move the score up. She's got 60.45, and she reclaims the lead currently at the 175.65 total.
And here's a full out, what we call it, for 2.5 with 1 twist by Jen.
You see, she did a much better job here. She came around and lost her legs just a little bit as she's squaring that twist out. Finished it much higher than she did earlier in the prelims. I like the way that she gets that dive down in the water. She comes away with 60 points on the dive.
Emma's going to do back 2.5 tuck for her third round dive. We're halfway through round number 3.
Really, really like the way that she has control over that back 2.5. Stands it up very well. She can kick out looking at her toes a little bit more with a flatter back. It's going to give her a little bit higher scores, but that's going to go in really well. We wait here for one of the judges to finish hitting the enter button. These women are doing just a great job here in the Constellations. It's going to be an exciting finals if this is any kind of an indication. She comes away with keeping high at 2 8s and a 7.5, 65.8 points there.
Laura Ryan, third round dive, reverse 2.5 somersaults pike.
Laura did a really good job there waiting for the board to come up. Stayed in nice control. A little off to the left corner of the diving board. Makes the dive a little more difficult. Comes away with 63 points. Going to keep 7s on that dive.
Logan's going to do front 3.5 tuck. We saw that pike earlier by Sam.
You watch that dive take off, and you just see it spinning all the way up. She's about halfway through the dive at the apex of that jump. Now she does come around at the bottom and doesn't really get out tight, so she's going to walk away here with 6.5 and 7, or 7s and 6.5, 57.4 points.
We're going to see Michaela do the same dive, front 3.5 tuck.
That dive spun much higher, much faster. She was done with about 2.5 somersaults at the apex there. Very, very well in control on the entry. Going to keep 7.5 for 63 points there.
And Cassie's next dive. Back 2.5 tuck. Final diver, round number 3. We're doing 6 rounds here. Got 8 divers.
Just incredible back 2.5 takeoff. She did the same thing in the preliminaries that really solidified her spot as the leader. She comes away with 7s on this dive and 58.8 points. Legs a little bit apart as she's going in the water, a little loose in the back. Let's get those legs together and tighten it up.
Leaderboard has Cassie, who just did that dive, in first, Sam in second, Emma in third. It's pretty tight, though, within 3 points. First diver of round 4. We got 3 more rounds left. Amy Kozad doing front 3.5 tuck.
Amy really went after this front 3.5. She's a little bit forward on the diving board, so she moves it out a little bit further than some of the other women that are doing the dive. She kind of floats around the entry, but she gets in the water pretty clean. Beautiful tuck, nice tight tuck position.
One of the things on this list is they've got to cover all the directions, including twisters, front, back, reverse, inward twisters, and then they can add another one, doubling up in one of the categories. It's a little different than high school diving where they're doing all optionals. Sam Pickens doing back 2.5 pike.
Coming into this round, Sam is 0.15 points off the lead. Really, really aggressive jump on the dive. Showed a lot of control, just slightly over with her feet as she goes into the water. It's a very powerful diver. Like the way that she jumps and goes after this. She's definitely on a mission. She's going to come away with 54 points. Going to average 6s on the dive. Does open the door just a little bit there.
Jen's round 4 dive. Back 2.5 pike.
Very nice dive. A little bit off to the side. I'm not sure the judges are going to notice that so much. Jumped up really well. Beautiful pike. Like the way she pressed out, reached back for the water, and just made the dive almost disappear. You call it 63 points there. Moves her within striking distance of Samantha as well.
Emma's doing reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck.
See, she kind of jumps off forward off the diving board when she takes off there a little bit quick. She needs to be a little more patient on the diving board and let the dive come up and develop over the top. Still put the dive away pretty well. She comes around with 7, 6.5, 57.4 points.
Laura Ryan going inward 2.5 pike.
That dive did allow Emma to just edge out Samantha here in this round. Inward 2.5 pike definitely got that dive moving. Let it go just a little bit over.
49.5.
Very strong diver. She gets some nice positions. 49.5 points on that.
We're halfway through round 4. Logan doing back 2.5 pike.
Logan was real quick off the diving board there. You saw her arms come up and almost cut off the jump. Makes the dive a little bit whippy, harder to control coming out. She ends up going quite over. She comes up with 39 points there. Low of 3.5, high of 5.
Michaela doing back 2.5 tuck.
Michaela's just so aggressive on her come out. She's a little bit early there. I like the way that she jumps up, gets it spinning, but she did leave that dive a little bit short, kind of opens the door. 46.2 points.
Our leader after round 3 is Cassie. She's on the board doing reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck. She's got to score about 55 points on this dive. Take the lead again. A little short.
She left the dive a little bit short. She's pretty good approach. Nice and aggressive on the takeoff. She waited for the dive to get up into the air. She comes up with 47.6 points. 3 sixes, the rest 5.5s.
Going into 5, we got Emma Ivory, Sam Pickens, and Jenny Chang, top 3.
Still really tight there for the
sure is.
9th, 10th, and 11th place here in the NCAA 3-meter championships.
Got Amy Kozad, front 2.5 pike. Just did it front 3.5 in her previous round.
Yep, Amy does a really good job here. She gets some beautiful pike position. She comes out, checks out really early above the board. Leaves it just slightly short, comes away with 54 points, averaging 7.5 on the scores.
We got Sam doing reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. Her whole list is pike, actually. No tucks in there.
Sam gets into such a nice tight pike position on these dives. Allows that dive to get up and get moving. Puts it pretty much up and down. She's a little bit off center there. Comes away with 49.50 points.
Jen Chang's doing the same dive as Sam. Reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. That was fantastic, Evan.
She got that up and down really well. From our vantage point, you can see that she's moving off a little bit to the side. She'll probably come away with 7.5 on this dive, and she does. High of 8.5, low of 6, 64.5 points. That does move her into the first place position.
Emma's going to do a full out. Or 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist. This is our leader coming into this round.
She didn't quite get square there on the finish. She had a really good takeoff. A little bit forward. Makes it a little bit difficult to square out over the top and line it up. She's going to come away with 57 points. Does move her into second position at this moment in the round.
Laura Ryan doing a pretty tough dive here. Forward 3.5 somersaults pike. Saw Kate Hillman earlier in prelims do this dive.
Yeah, Lauren leaves this dive just a little bit short. Very aggressive on the takeoff. Got it somersault spinning really fast. She can come away 5.5, 6s, 51.15.
Logan Klein, 5th round dive. Reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck.
Very well executed dive. From our vantage point, you can see that it continued to go over underwater. I don't know if the judges saw that so much, but I suspect she'll be somewhere in the 6.5 range. Got 1.6, mostly 7.5, so didn't see as much of that underwater save as we would have seen from up here. 60.2 points.
This ought to be fun to watch. Reverse 2.5 from Michaela. Does this dive on 1 meter. Let's see how high she finishes this.
This dive moved her from back in the middle of the pack into the consolation finals.
Wow.
Once again, very well executed.
That needs to score well, in my opinion.
She jumps that dive up way high, kicks out at about 2.25 somersaults and just floats it around.
Came up almost at the bars.
She's going to come away with 67.2 points. It's averaging 8s. She got a high of 8.5.
You think that's her favorite dive, Kevin?
I suspect it may be.
And Cassie, finishing out round 5, our 8th diver, doing back 1 1/2 somersault, 2 1/2 twists.
Really like how she fought that dive, keeping her legs together. You see her feet just sort of crossed, helps her to keep the legs from splitting apart.
It's a little trick, huh?
A little trick. Not something you don't necessarily see so much from the judging side. She's got to get the dive in the water a little cleaner. She's going to come away with 6.5, 53.2 points.
Okay, this is it. Final round. Consuls. Amy. Back 1 1/2, 2 1/2 twists. Final dive. Our leader is Jen Chang from Notre Dame. Second, Emma.
You see, Amy did a really good job here keeping her legs together. The dive itself was a little bit further out. Didn't go quite as high, but she did a tremendous job keeping the beautiful leg line there. She's got some work to do to clean that up. Comes away with 50.4 points.
Sam Pickens, University of Arizona. Final dive. Full out for 2 1/2 somersaults. 1 twist.
You see her really attack that approach and that hurdle. Very patient on the diving board, and you can see the somersault develop well. She comes away with a couple 8s. She's going to keep 7.5, 67.5 points, which is enough to put her in the lead for the moment.
Here was our leader going into round 6, Jen Chang from Notre Dame. Reverse 1 1/2 somersaults, 2 1/2 twists. 2.9.
Did a very good job setting that up. Lost her legs in the middle, and it looked to me like she might have over-twisted just a little bit. She very well could have opened the door here.
Judge Ford.
Waiting on Judge Forrest's score.
And I think they saw the same thing,
I
Kevin.
think they did. It came with 39.15 points. It leaves her just a little bit short of Samantha Pickens.
Here's Emma. She was in second going into this final round. And we're 2 1/2 somersaults pike.
She gets that dive around very well, finishes it up a little bit low, but she gets it vertical. I'd like to see her wait on that diving board a little longer so she can be done up and above the board. She comes away with 60 points. That moves her ahead of Samantha Pickens by just over 1.5 points.
Laura Ryan doing front 2 1/2, 1 twist.
Very aggressive on this dive. I like the way that it just waits on the board, gets up over the top. She's done with that dive up about 3 meter springboard. Get that entry cleaned up a little bit. She'll get some huge judges' scores. 58.5 on that one.
Same dive from Logan Klein, Virginia Tech. Final dive.
She got that dive to go in a little bit better. You saw her toes hanging off the board just a little bit as she took off, so she had to make some adjustments there in midair. She comes away 58.5 points. Low of 6, high of 7.
Michaela's doing back 1 1/2 somersault, 1 1/2 twist. Final dive.
Very well executed back 1.5, 1.5. It's one of the lower degree difficulty twisters we've seen in the consolations. But she did a really good job, excuse me, did a really good job putting that in the water. 50.4 points, carried 7s.
From LSU, Cassie doing gainer twister, reverse 1 1/2, 2 1/2 twists.
Calculations are right. She needs about 71 points on this dive to take the lead here.
Lost her feet just a little bit, but
very well executed dive. Legs a little bit split, and then she got them back together a little bit off the side of the board. We're going to see what the judges think about that. Personally, I don't think she's going to make it. 60.9. She went 1 5.5. The rest 7s.
And there's your leaderboard. Looks like Emma finished actually in 9th because this is Consuls, 347. 10th, Sam Pickens, 346.65. Cassie Wheel, 11th at 337.50. Jen from Notre Dame, 330.75. Laura Ryan, 329.05. Michaela Butler, 326.55. And Logan Klein finished 15th at 325.35, and finishing 16th from Indiana University, Amy Kozad with a score of 305.40. The spread between first and second was like 1.4 points.
About 0.35 points.
Yeah,
on that. That was
it's
very
tight.
tight competition there.
That's the way we like to see it.
That's a very, very good job by these women. Even though this was consolation finals, they put on a great show. We're going to kind of lead them into the finals for tonight. If we saw this great a diving in the consoles, I'm sure that the finals are going to be even much more exciting.